but he's got some sweet cards in the sideboard, so we'll keep an eye for that.
Right.
Two guesses as to what he's playing.
Okay, here we go.
Here we are. Welcome to round 1 of the StarCityGames.com Invitational. I'm Gavin. We're here with Adrian Sullivan.
Hello.
And we're about to watch a matchup between Josh Jacobson and Harrison Greenberg. On your right, Josh Jacobson, New York native. He top 8 a couple of these, I think. Played in the area for a long time, familiar with a lot of the players. I don't know what Josh is playing, but we do know what Harrison is playing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it looks like Harrison is playing a Birthing Pod deck that is basically taking the Fauna Shaman and Lotus Cobra shell and laying on top of it Birthing Pod. Now, in many ways, it has kind of a mythic engine for its mana, because it has birds, elves, and Cobra, and then from there, it has a huge package of singletons going all the way up to Shellrod the Whispering One. Now, Shellrod the Whispering One is both a one-way abyss as well as a reanimation machine.
Yeah, and I played with a lot with Birthing Pod. I wrote a whole article on the card. I think it's incredible. And the way these things work is, you just you chain your guys up. So you play a 4-drop, get a 5-drop, get a 6-drop, get a 7-drop. You get Shilladred into play, and then you're just so far ahead of your opponent.
Now, Josh Jacobson is playing Blue-White Callblade.
Original. Looks like Harrison takes a trip to Paris there with a mulligan.
When you finish your match, you will bring your match results slip up to the
So, if Harrison's playing this deck, Harrison loves playing these green decks that are allegedly good against Cobblade. I think he's probably going to get a good advantage here. I played a lot with Birthing Pod, and I feel like the Birthing Pod Vengevine decks generally are good against Cobblade decks.
I haven't played it with Birthing Pod in Standard. I've played with it in Block. And in Block, it's very, very potent. The weapons that you can tutor for in Standard are so much more powerful. So it has to have some sort of power. But the bar is so much higher in Standard in order to be able to be worthwhile. So it's actually, for me, it's an open question. I mean, I've been doing a lot of Blue Manji playing, and I wouldn't want to slow down from a Blue Manji deck. Blue Manji being the Larry Swayze built blue-green Vengevine deck that he won a PTQ with last weekend, I believe.
Yeah, he was beating 3 Cobblade decks in the top 8. Didn't drop a match in the Swiss, I believe.
Yeah, he didn't drop a match all day. I know I played it the same weekend as well did a friend of mine, Matt Severa, and we lost between the two of us almost nothing. We got the game started right now. Harrison Greenberg with a Verdant Catacombs facing Josh Jacobson, who follows with a Celestial Colonnade. On the next turn, Harrison lays a Swamp, fetches a Forest, and lays a Lotus Cobra.
Yep, Cobra down. Josh draws the Stoneforge Mystic. Everything's, yep, here comes the ubiquitous turn 2 play, Mystic.
So,
I think we're going to see a Batterskull here?
He probably will get Batterskull. It's possible Sword of Feast and Famine because there's a green deck over there. And also, apparently a green-black deck. So Sword of Feast and Famine is very, very reasonable. One of the things that I think is really funny is that in the conversation on Star City Games about Blue Manji, people are like, well, what do you do against a turn 2 fetched Batterskull? And I always ask, what do they do about a turn 2 Lotus Cobra? And let's see what the Lotus Cobra can do here. Usually a Lotus Cobra, if not dealt with, gives, he just wants to throw it away.
I don't think he has another land.
He must not have another land, yeah.
I was looking at his hand, I don't think
Boom.
he has.
And there's a Fauna Shaman.
Yeah, and there's no more lands.
Well, that's a bad time for Mr. Harrison.
If I were Josh there, I might have not played.
Anthony Vaccaro, if you're in the hall, please raise your hand. Anthony Vaccaro.
He's got a second one.
Oh, well, if you have second Mystic, yeah. If your opponent's attacking there, he's either bluffing you, or he just doesn't have a land. And considering Harrison mulliganed already, I think not having a land is a reasonable bet. Now,
Absolutely.
Granted, there is a risk there because if he draws a land, he suddenly has access, up to towards the 5 mana.
Yeah.
But with the second Stoneforge Mystic, you can safely block there, and Josh plays it, finds it, Sword of Feast and Famine, and then I think we're going to see. Yep. Oh, Dismember.
Dismember. That card is such a monster.
Yeah, that is a card I put in my Cobblade decks almost from the start.
Still have their deck list at tables. Please raise your hand.
There's the Birds of Paradise from Harrison.
Yeah.
I love Dismember in the main deck. It's good in the mirror match. You can hit their Stoneforge Mystics, and against all the green decks, you can kill Lotus Cobras.
Versus Deceiver Exarch, it's very useful. You got 4 mana to Harrison's potential 3 mana next turn. Another land will give Harrison 4, but this is really bad for Harrison.
I think that's another Stoneforge Mystic, yeah, in front of Josh's hand. So you can lay that Mystic, find a 3rd equipment, and then put probably Batterskull into play at the end of Harrison's turn. And this is a really good position for Josh Jacobson here. And we'll see, I think Sword of War and Peace. It's probably going to be the culprit. Yep, and there's Sword of War and Peace. So now Josh has
Okay,
the
this one, are there
trifecta.
any players that still have their deck list?
Alright.
3 mana gives him. Is that a.
Okay, we are just correcting a couple
Pilgrim's
of
Pilgrim's Eye.
players that are on the list.
I mean, pretty reasonable one to have right now, actually.
So if you bear with us for just a moment, pairing will be going up shortly. You can certainly remain in your seats if you'd like.
Passes back.
Be ready,
Josh
you can
drops
get up if you
Batter
want.
Skull onto the battlefield.
Puts a little germ on it. Just. The die makes it look bigger than it is, but. It is a 0/0 with the Batter Skull on it.
Yes. And now I think we're probably going to see Josh vial that Sword of Feast and Famine onto the battlefield and equip it and then get in. Now granted he can block with Pilgrim's Eye, but I don't know, it still seems so powerful to me. Let's see, he sees Inkmoth Nexus Islands.
Yeah.
Josh drew Celestial Colonnade this turn. I don't think he needs lands. Nope, and he ships both of them.
Down they go.
Yep.
Amiria Angel, it looks like.
That's a good one.
Amiria Angel, for a green deck, is one of the most scary things you can actually face.
Yeah, I mean, those tokens are... I mean, Vengeman's good, doesn't have trample, though, so those tokens are pretty effective. Oh, Josh just opts to attack with both of his Stoneforge Mystics, which means I think we're going to see Mirror Angel here.
Boom, there it is. Now that, just below camera is Amiria Angel.
Yep, so there's an Mirror Angel slightly off screen for Josh Jacobson. So his board is double Mystic, Batter Skull, a Mirror Angel against Birds of Paradise and Pilgrim's Eye. Josh has a much stronger board at this juncture. I mean, Harrison kind of mana screwed this game.
Yeah,
See if
no.
that Pilgrim's Eye helps him get back into it, but
He needs some real help here. I mean, no Fauna Shaman, no Lotus Cobra means that this deck is not doing what it wants to be doing. Now, Dismember was what made Josh be able to be in that position, and Harrison threw away the Cobra because he didn't have the land to make it of any use. So, I mean, if you look at that body language with Harrison, like his hands in his hair, he looks kind of stressed out. He's not in a happy place here.
clearly not. I mean, the board especially. If you think his body language is bad, just look at the battlefield.
Right.
If you're Josh, do you think you play that Mirror Angel there? Do you like that play?
No, I don't like that play, actually. I don't think... I think right now you're already ruling the board, and you see black, you don't... Unless you know what Harrison's playing, Harrison could be playing like some sort of, let's call it a rock-like deck, with cards like Doomblade or Go for the Throat. I would want to get some value out of that Amiria Angel before it died. He has land in his hand.
Alright,
And what is that?
Is that a Vengevine? No, I don't think that is.
Let's see...
It's hard to see.
Entomber Exarch, I believe.
Entomber Exarch, eh? Alright, so for those who don't know what the card does, it lets him look at Josh's hand and take a creature, I believe.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah. Or, I mean, you can choose one of two things, and one of the modes is... One mode is return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. The other mode is look at your opponent's hand and take a creature out of it. One of those I win, you lose cards that R&D designed so nicely. Symmetrical effects.
Pardon, you choose
Or
a
non-creature.
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 He casts Duress.
Yeah. And so, thinking he sees the sword, I think a JCB, and the other swords, the two swords of JCB, Celestial Colonnade. And if you're Harrison here, you have to think, what card can I take to try and get back into this game? Which sword do I want to fight? I think he keeps the Jace. The question is which sword.
I think, you know, taking care of the Feast and Famine seems reasonable.
Against a green-black deck, I think
Yeah.
Feast and Famine, pretty good call. Alright, so Josh draws a mana leak. That's certainly going to be good against Harrison's mana strap position.
And here comes mana again for the off-the-screen Jace there. Let's
Yep.
see if we get that on the screen.
Yep, Jace Belair. And looks like Josh is probably going to go -1 draw.
Draws
card.
it into the Royal.
Yep. Draws into the Royal, plays Celestial Colonnade, gets a little birdie, and you're going to serve with the Mirror Angel and Batter Skull. See if Josh blocks here, just takes it. Harrison's life total is quickly dwindling at 13 now. If he takes this hit, he'll drop down to 6. I think
you take
just
this
take
hit.
it, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, blocking doesn't accomplish anything.
That Pilgrim's Eye is going to be able to block a potentially bigger creature next time.
Oh, he
Well,
blocks.
It's going to block sometime.
I mean, the question is for Harrison, how do you win this game? And maybe it involves Birthing Pod, so he wants to make sure he's at enough life to use it, but Pilgrim's Eye is a good one to sacrifice.
The way I see out of this game is Phyrexian Metamorph followed by Sacklands. Get a Phyrexian Metamorph into play, copying a Mirror Angel, and then lay Sacklands, and get 2 creatures a turn. Well, so it requires several different draws.
But even then, you left the Sword of War and Peace in Josh Jacobson's hand, so he can attack right past it with the protection from white on that sword.
Well, there's the Bird of Paradise in place still, so you can get 1 chump block in.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
it's not good. I mean, he's in a position where he is in a world of hurt.
Yep, Harrison, not where he wants to be right now. Josh, once again, just looking at body language, Josh seems like he's in such a dominating position.
Please find your seats quickly.
Let's see.
We will begin the round shortly.
Harrison in the tank.
Once again, standard open.
All right, so there's the Metamorph, and Josh has Mana Leak for the Metamorph, and I think that's I think that's Harrison's lone shot. Yeah, he packs up. So he had the Metamorph. Was going to copy Mirror Angel, but we knew Josh had that Mana Leak. And that's it for Harrison Greenberg. So the Birthing Pod deck already won in the hole against the Blue-White Menace.
Yes, yes. And you know, to be fair here, we didn't get to see whether or not Harrison's deck is good against this or not, because his deck didn't function. As happens sometimes when mana is an issue.
How many lands does he play?
How many what?
How many lands does Harrison play?
Once again, it is
23 lands.
23 lands. See, that seems like so few lands. I mean, yeah, he's got 4 Cobra, 4 Elves, 4 Birds, but if it's such a hard balance, because if you just miss your land drops with this deck, you start losing almost instantly. If you get your card killed, your early creature killed, dismembered. Also with Lotus Cobra, you just want to play a land every turn. The worst is playing turn 2 Lotus Cobra and not having any more lands to follow it up with. If Harrison had a third land there, any third land, I think would have been a pretty good position that game.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason Lotus Cobra is so powerful is if you take, say, a card like Acidic Slime. Acidic Slime is not an overly powered card, but when you cast it on turn 3, suddenly you're talking about a card that can so shift the tempo. Your opponent doesn't get to do anything really of note in the next turn, and then you get to do it again on the subsequent turn, such that you just end up being so far ahead that even if your plays individually card for card aren't as strong, you're doing them sooner, and they're not doing theirs.
Right. I mean, you're just playing the tempo game to good advantage. And the problem is, though, when you don't have a land for that Lotus Cobra, it doesn't quite work so well.
Table 55, John Pennick and Martin.
So, do we have Harrison's sideboard here?
And at the Garrett table,
here we go.
Donald Nolan.
So,
and
as of last night, Harrison's sideboard was 3 Obstinate Baloth, 3 Spellskite, 3 Beast Within, a Grave Titan, a Wormcoil Engine, a Phyrexian Revoker, a Silvok Replica, and an Entomber Exarch. Which of these do you think comes in this matchup, Adrian? Assuming he still has all the same 15 cards.
In looking at this, gosh, I'm sure he'll bring in the Phyrexian Revoker, even though, in my own experience, I find it kind of lackluster against Hogblade as a singleton. It can shut off a fetched equipment, at least the Battle Skull not as much unless you kill the Germ, but if you do kill the Germ, then you can shut off the fetched equipment. You can shut off Feast and Famine, you can shut off the other swords, you can shut off a Jace.
Stoneforge Mystic on turn 2, that's pretty good.
But your opponent has creature elimination, and so he's not likely to necessarily stick around, and it's only a 2/1 body, so it can't really attack. I would probably also bring in Silvok Replica because you can use it to kill a equipment during an unfortunate moment. But I'm going to say, I hope that he has changed his sideboard since we got this list last night. This honestly, it looks to me like a brew that has promise, but maybe isn't polished off yet. Because, the cards are new. This archetype hasn't really seen enough play to get honed yet. I mean, I think his mana is probably a little light, and his sideboard is perhaps a little bit weak.
Yeah, I agree. So the thing about, if this was another open series, I could see it more, but if this is the Invitational, $50,000 are on the line in this tournament. You can't just bring a brew into this event. That's not what you should be doing. Like, if I were Harrison, I'd just play whatever he knows best. And he knows how to play the Jumanji deck pretty well. It seems like the blue Manji deck, the new Larry Swayze deck, would fit his style perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, like, I spent a lot of time working on Blue Manji with Larry after NPH came out, because he had such a great list. You know, Larry had come to 2 Star City Games Invitationals in Boston. The first one he gets 2nd place, and the second one he gets top 8. And, you know, this is a player, Larry Swayze, who is not, you know, he's not somebody that has played on the Pro Tour up until, I don't believe yet, though he just qualified this last weekend. You know, he's playing this deck that's powerful and good, and he comes to it with great results. And, you know, new set comes out, you work with it. But, you know, the thing about this Harrison Greenberg list is it looks like it's a first week deck. You know, like it was maybe worked on this week. And I have to agree with you, when this kind of stakes are on the line, you have to treat this like a Pro Tour. And you want something that is honed, not something that has potential.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can't afford to just bring some brew in, but okay, there's Harrison with a Terminal Nowhere Else. But granted, maybe, and an island from Josh Jacobson, maybe Harrison has played this deck more than we give him credit for. It's hard to know. Maybe he's been working on it for weeks. New Phyrexia has been out for a little while, so he's had some time to play with the cards.
If that's the case, he's not running enough fetch lands. Like, in order for this deck to really be whirring at the level you want it to, you need, I would say, 10 fetch lands minimum. And he's only got 8. Okay, we've got a birds and an elf on one side, and a fetched Batterskull on the other.
Oh,
now, access to 5 mana if Harrison has a land here.
And we'll see, maybe he can drop something very threatening out. Let's see what he has. I mean, even a Birthing Pod here, like, it doesn't seem like that much, but it's still pretty good. I've been playing with the card a lot, and you can just chain a 1 into a 2, a 2 into a 3, a 3 into a 4, you get a lot of value. Does he have Mirror Superion in his deck? Doesn't look like it.
No.
That's one of my favorites, because you can turn all your Llanowar Elves just into...
There's a Deceiver Exarch.
Or an Entomber Exarch,
my bad.
Which would normally take that Batterskull, but I think we see double Batterskull in Josh's hand here.
I still don't mind taking a Batterskull.
I mean, you gotta get rid of it somehow, right?
Yeah, I mean, if he goes, nope, doesn't touch that Batterskull, and he takes the End of the Royal, I mean, next turn there'll be a Batterskull, and after that there'll be a second Batterskull.
Yep, Batterskull is a big problem for almost any deck, and no exception here.
I mean, actually, I don't think Batterskull is necessarily a huge problem for many decks, but what it is it buys the Batterskull player time and does not let you have time. So that means that for some decks you can ignore that, but for others, you know, a lot of them, that's just going to make them crumple. We got a 3rd land in Plains from Josh. Harrison lays his 4th land. Casts a Mirror Retriever? Or not Mirror Retriever, Phyrexian Revoker. Can't speak. Oh.
Okay, and in response, Josh puts Batterskull down. And let's see what he names. Do you think you name Batterskull here?
No, I don't. Unless, well, maybe. It depends. If you've got a card that kills his Batterskull, then naming it is just fine. But I might name Jace.
Or, I mean, you can always just trade. He names Batterskull.
Okay.
I mean, you can always trade with the Batterskull. But here's a Jace from Josh Jacobson, which is going to put Harrison pretty far in the hole. Yeah. Yeah, it's on Batterskull.
Okay.
Josh draws a Journey to Nowhere there too. It looks like Josh's deck, he realized people have been moving more away from the builds of Cobbled that beat creatures. It looks like Josh's deck is making sure he can beat creatures. We saw Dismember game 1, we saw Journey to Nowhere game 2, maybe that Journey is main deck. Let's see, passes back to Harrison. Harrison just has a land and go.
God.
Yeah, now do you just start Fate Sealing here if you're Josh?
I don't. Actually, any individual single card that Harrison plays, the only one that would be probably of note right now would be, because of that Journey, would be Birthing Pod. And so what I think I do is I would probably just, like, at this point, now they drew that Caw, maybe I was going to say something differently, but after having drawn the Squadron Hawk, now I actually think you can start using the Fate Seal ability.
I mean, I think you got the board locked up. You can be starting with your Batterskull every turn, so why not just Fate Seal him out?
I wanted a little bit more on the table before that, but now that there's that as well, because
we have all the Hawks.
Yeah. So yeah, as soon as the little birdie came down, I'm with you on that plan.
Yeah, I like Fate Sealing here. We'll see what Josh chooses to do. I mean, brainstorming is always tempting, but I think Oh, yeah, he's just going to go for the brainstorm. I mean, brainstorming is really tempting. I mean, you get to draw 3 cards.
Well, particularly when he has the Squadron Hawk
so,
out.
so you actually just get to draw 3 cards. It's pretty insane. That's a mental misstep drawn from Josh Jacobson. That's a brutal card in this matchup. If you're expecting Birds of Paradise, Llanowar Elves, mental misstep is actually a reasonable card.
Yeah, I agree. And particularly the way that that Harrison has this deck built. I mean, he's got if it's similar to what was done before, there was a Voltaic Key in the deck, which I'm not exactly sure if it's worth it for Birthing Pod to Voltaic Key. You know, there's other random 1-ofs that he has that are 1-drops.
Well, I mean, I think the idea is you get Trinket Mage, and then your Trinket Mage spends your Voltaic Key, and then you can...
I understand that you can do that. I'm just not sure if it's worth it.
Yeah, I agree. I've built a lot of Birthing Pod decks. I'm not a big fan of the Voltaic Key, because you're wasting a Birthing Pod activation. Well, not wasting, but you're using one up, and then you have to play this Voltaic Key in your deck that sucks if you ever draw it alone. And I mean, none of my builds had Voltaic Key. The big card that I like a lot is actually Treasure Mage into Molten Steel Dragon, which Harrison doesn't have.
Yeah.
And that's a play I'm a big fan of. And then you can, you know, crack your Molten Steel Dragon if you want. If you don't want your 4/4 flyer, turn it into a Shield of Dread.
A second Squadron Hawk from Josh Jacobson. Harrison draws. Harrison has access now to 9 million mana, otherwise known as 7.
Yeah. Let's see. The board position right now for Josh Jacobson: 2 Hawks, Stoneforge Mystic, Batterskull with Germ, and
there's a Phyrexian Metamorph there, I believe.
Yep. And on Harrison's side, we have Entomber Exarch, Llanowar Elves, Birds of Paradise, Phyrexian Revoker.
I believe he's making his own Batterskull.
Yep. Seems like a good choice. Now, Batterskull's still locked it down for Harrison.
What does that do? Now, you see, it's a clone, or it's a Sculpting Steel.
No longer a creature.
And it's still an artifact, if it copies a creature, which is surprisingly relevant. Let's see what Josh chooses to do.
Now, this is one of the lines of play I really like from the decks that are Fauna Shaman decks. If you are running a Fauna Shaman deck, Phyrexian Metamorph, copying Batterskull, I do that all the time. You can trade with that Germ, you can bounce it back up and relay it again, you can copy something better later. Yeah. Really, really good card against that deck.
The problem, of course, is right now Batterskull is Phyrexian Revoker. So if Josh can just go -1 on Jace, bounce the Germ token, and then that Metamorph.
This is true. This is true.
Doesn't do anything. Because it's a clone, it does copy the name Batterskull. Yep. So it is still locked out.
And the casting cost for all of you out there who are curious.
If Divine Offering comes around. So Josh chooses to brainstorm again. I don't know, I still like Fate Sealing, but or at least bouncing the Germ. Probably not bounce the Germ here.
He doesn't need any more cards at this point. He's got so many cards, he's just bursting with them.
Right, now he's just, wants to find a way to close, make sure Harrison doesn't top deck his way back into the game.
Wait a second, what does that say? Oh.
Alright. And so he Divine Offerings the Batterskull, making sure that Harrison can't return it. Gains 5 life, so Josh did bring in his Divine Offerings. Josh is sitting on just a ton of cards. Josh has everything he could want. I think he's got Dismember, Journey to Nowhere, Day of Judgment.
Literally, the only way I see out of this for Harrison is Shieldred, however you say that ancient evil creature. And then it has to have a way to deal with the Journey to Nowhere, which I believe is in Josh's hand.
Yeah, I mean, Josh has Journey, he's got Dismember, which doesn't outright kill Shieldred, but still could be a problem. And he also has a Day of Judgment, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Shellrod? How do you say that?
It's a Shieldred, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Shieldred. It's awesome.
I've never actually been introduced formally, so he didn't tell me how to say his name.
She, actually.
She? Okay.
Yeah. Jeez, so rude. So rude. Alright, let's see. Harrison sitting at 9 left, Josh up to 31. Josh is in such a commanding position, and it's doing what the Cobblade deck does best. You can't deal with the Stoneforge Mystic. I mean, it just takes over the game, put Batterskull down early. Batterskull is just the big game-changing card. Like before, maybe you get a sort of Feast and Famine, you like slowly, build your way into the game, but now you just get Batterskull and start pounding away, battering away, as it were. Okay, so there's the Birthing Pod from Harrison, and that is a big card, because it's very hard for Josh to deal with that one. And you can just activate it, crack away that Entomber Exarch, probably, yeah. And that's why it would have been Fate Sealing. Like, the only
way you can lose is if Harrison top decks perfectly. I don't know if Birthing Pod's going to do it, but it's certainly one way he can find his way out of the game. So Acidic Slime on Batterskull. See, there you go.
Now let's see if this is going to be sufficient for him to get back in the game. Now there's apparently a Rashad in play. That's a germ that can still live even when it doesn't carry a Batterskull. I think it's just waiting to die, waiting for someone to notice it, and then it'll go.
I think its status effects haven't been checked yet. We got to wait for status effects. Yeah.
Okay, they're still shuffling. They're still shuffling, says Rashad. I'm going to stay and play as long as possible.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is, so that Birthing Pod's pretty good for Harrison. Josh can still crack in for 2 points here, drop Harrison to 7. But once again, like that Birthing Pod, Josh doesn't have a good way to deal with it. He has Into the Royal, which he can bounce it with, but that's certainly not the best solution. He can go bounce it Day of Judgment, but is that really what you want to do? We'll see.
I mean, I would rather have a Jason play than a Birthing Pod in play.
I don't know. I mean, Jason's a very powerful card.
But Birthing Pod is no slouch either. I instantly bought 4 Birthing Pods the moment I saw that card. I'm pretty sure it's absolutely insane, and maybe it's constrained a little bit by the fact that Cobblade exists right now. But especially after it rotates out, I can't see the card being anything but absolute bananas.
3 land found by the Jace.
Colonnade, though, which is extremely relevant, because now Josh, if he wants to, could theoretically Day of Judgment and still have a creature.
I see a Gideon in his hand. A sword comes down, goes on to a bird,
yep.
and it comes for a pretty, I think, small hit.
4.
I think Harrison has 1 card in hand.
Yeah, Harrison's got 1 card.
And then Josh is going to be gaining a... oh, no, sorry, it's a Feast and Famine, my bad. Okay, so empties out Harrison's hand.
Empties out Harrison's hand and untaps all of his lands, so he can come back for round 2.
And now next turn, what he can do is he can Into the Royal that Birthing Pod and then empty it away.
Well, we'll see if that's what he chooses to do. Josh flicked the Day of Judgment to the front of his hand.
Well, I mean, Josh isn't in any threat here, right? So what he can do is he can accept potentially 1 more turn of that Birthing Pod, which, to be fair, though, the Birthing Pod will probably kill that sword.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't know what Harrison has in his deck. He's got an active Jace. What if you just Fate Seal Harrison, see what he's got, and then Day of Judgment?
Well, he's already used his Jace.
Oh, he already brainstormed this
Yeah.
time? Well,
so Harrison has no cards in hand, which means that Day of Judgment here wipes out Birthing Pod from being able to be used unless Harrison top decks another creature.
Which is one thing why I like Fate Sealing him. Because if you just see a land on top, I would just instantly Day of Judgment this turn. But
look at Harrison's face. He's like, okay, do it. What do you got? Here it comes.
Alright, Day of Judgment. But just any top deck creature by Harrison.
There you go.
Yeah. So there goes everything but Birthing Pod. Birthing Pod sticks around.
Birthing Pod and Jace versus a sword, and we're going to probably see another creature, I'm going to guess there.
Yep.
There's the little birdie.
So there's Squadron Hawk. So
Yep.
Harrison is dead next turn to Josh's board.
Unless...
Oh, let's see what he draws.
Acidic Slime would be amazing here. Actually, not Acidic Slime. Even Acidic Slime would be pretty good.
Yeah, Slime would be pretty
Because
good.
he could slime the Colonnade.
Alright,
Vengevine.
Alright, so he serves up the Jace. Josh just lets Jace die, and that's a game, right? Or I guess he can use Birthing Pod to get a 5, and he can get Acidic Slime.
Yeah.
Alright, that's pretty good.
Sign-ups for $10 drafts and $15 drafts. Standard Winnabox and Legacy Winnabox. Also, EDH and Commander events.
Once again, man.
Kristen, she'll get you signed up.
I mean, I understand if he would have brainstormed, he wouldn't have that Colonnade, but I don't know. Fate Sealing makes sure something like that doesn't happen.
There goes the Colonnade.
There goes Colonnade. Harrison, Josh still in a pretty good position though. He can serve with the sword on the Hawk this turn, drop Harrison to 2 life, get double use out of all of his lands, play another Jace. Puts him in a pretty good position. What 6s can Harrison find? A Grave Titan, I know.
Grave Titan, Massacre Worm, and Wormcoil Engine.
Well, if he has Wormcoil Engine, it's going to be a little too slow.
I think even Grave Titan is too slow.
And Josh has Dismember too. Dismember and Journey, so I mean, even with that play, I think that still locks it up.
Really what Harrison wants is to top deck a small spell. Now, if I were Josh, what I would probably do here is Into the Royal, that Birthing Pod, just to kill the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you Into the Royal Birthing Pod, equip Sword,
Okay, he's gonna play small Jace.
Yeah, you don't
Equip sword, journey his guy, and then I don't know how Harrison's gonna win from that position. If he has no creatures, a birthing pod sitting in his hand, you make him discard his birthing pod with your sword if he's in famine.
Yeah. That's the play.
Yeah. But he chooses not to do that, and just gonna journey away that acidic slime. And we'll see what Harrison can do this turn.
Yeah, I really like the End of the Royal play on the Birthing Pod. It's the
Yeah.
only card in Harrison's hand, and then it goes away.
Yep, it's just a removal spell, and then you kill his creature, and I don't think Harrison can draw a single card in his deck to save him, and I don't think Josh could think of a single card that could in Harrison's deck that could save him. So
He wants,
all right, we got a Bird of Paradise or Llanowar Elf.
Then we're off. There are no 2s that I think save him.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be it. And the Royal
There we
for
go.
Llanowar Elf, and that's it. Josh Jacobson defeats Harrison Greenberg 2-0. Do you want to try and get Harrison Greenberg in here to talk a little bit about his Birthing Pod deck, though?
If we've got some time, do we have another match that's set up or no?
Rashad, do you have a match we can switch to, or should we get Harrison in and talk about his deck? I mean, I love Birthing Pod. I'd love to see what Harrison's take. I also like to know how much he tested this deck. We thought